We could see some downside moves at the open today for that one as well. What about toll today, Julia? We've got the AGM this morning. This is the toll roads operator, of course. What are you expecting? What was likely to be the key focus?
I think toll is watched very closely, not only in terms of its business, but in terms of the rest of the market, because it tends to act as a bellwether, not only for the Australian economy, but for the global economy, which is leveraged to. So toll's business really leveraged to global economic conditions. As you mentioned, Kate, it is involved in transport, logistics, as well as freight, and it's had a difficult time in the last couple of years. In fact, the last year we've seen the share price down by 10%, and in the last 2 years we've seen the share price down by 36%. Now, it has been hit by a number of different problems in its Japanese business, and here domestically it's been hit by the softer discretionary retail space. So I guess the market's going to be watching the commentary coming out of the Toll Holdings AGM, which is at 10 a.m. this morning, very closely to give us an idea how the Australian economy as well as the global economy is tracking. We'll also be watching any comments on its Australian Express business, and that's because there's more competition in this area now. We've seen Australia Post acquire Star Trek, so more competition here, and the market just watching for commentary around its Australian business, especially the discretionary retail part of it. So Toll Holdings, 10 a.m. is the annual general meeting, and I think the market's just going to be watching comments to give us an idea of the flavour of the global economy at the moment, as well as the domestic one.
Okay, sounds like that's an important one to watch, Julia. In terms of the market today, it looks like we're headed for a fairly flat session. SPI futures just up slightly at the moment, but I am reading that we could see them soften a little following Apple's result, which came out after the bell on Wall Street, and that was a little disappointing. What are you looking for at 10 a.m?
We have seen a couple of disappointing results coming out after the bell. As you mentioned, Kate, we saw Apple missing expectations in terms of earnings, and we also saw Amazon's profit result disappointing the market as well. So altogether, we could see a little bit of downward pressure given the results that we have seen after hours. We have a look at how the Australian market has traded for the week. This is the ASX 200 for the week so far, and you can see that for the week we've seen a loss of 1.3%, mainly due to the big loss that we saw from Wall Street on Tuesday's session. You can see that in the last couple of sessions we've just seen consolidation with a very narrow trading range of around about 20 points. On the upper end of that, we're bounded by 4,520 points, so it does look like that's going to be the challenge in the short term. But all up, if we have a look at sector performance for the week, every single sector has traded lower, with just one exception, and that's the property space. So it's going to be interesting to see whether we see those property stocks continue with the strong gains that we've seen for the week. The miners have been the weak point for our market. The materials, the energy space, that's really behind what's dragged down the market. We have a look at the leads for the Aussie market. We did see US indices mostly lower, but pretty anemic gains there. And durable goods beating on the upside. We did see a gain of 9.9%. Most of that due to aircraft. If you strip out the aircraft, then we saw a gain of 2%. And in fact, if you strip out aircraft and the non-defence, the defence items, then we actually saw a flat result there. But it did come in above expectations. We have a look at how some of the Australian companies which trade in the US perform. We did see BHP doing well. Its ADRs were up by 1.3%. Telstra also gaining 1%. Westpac was up by 0.4%. But we did see ResMed down by 1.3% in the US session.